Hello plant people, how are you guys doing today? If you're new around here, my name is Ashley and I like to take science and apply to all things plants, both indoors and outside, and today is the part 2 of trellising video. So go check out the first one if you want to understand the benefits to it. If you are having issues with disease or pests that are soil borne, then you may want to trellis. If you don't like malformed cucumbers, a lot of studies are showing that trellising is in your benefit. However, if you have this space, you don't care if a couple cucumbers come out a little bit crooked, there really isn't anything to show that it increases yield or anything like that. However, one thing I will say, despite the fact that they say it does give it more sun, and that didn't ultimately affect the actual yield of the cucumber or the squash harvest or whatever, what I will say is if you're in an area that the ground doesn't get much sunlight, but the above portion does, trellising will definitely work in your favor. And that's kind of the purpose of this video, is we're going to go through some of the trellising that I'm doing currently in my garden, what's working for me, what's not working for me, and how you may want to tweak this just so you can try to fix your own mistakes or avoid the mistakes that I've made over the years. So let's get into it. So behind me here is a spaghetti squash DIY trellis. So under this is chicken wire, and then my husband did weld this together. The initial purpose of this was to put it over top of the pond because we thought the fish were getting hot. I don't know if that's an actual thing, but anyways, we wanted to give them a little bit extra protection. It didn't work out ultimately. The soil is not so ideal around the pond, and so because of that, I have moved it into this area. Now this is my first year using it in this area, and this bed down here that you can see is normally like full shade all the time. I cannot grow anything in here other than leafy greens. That is it, that is all. And even then the leafy greens can get leggy, which I know sounds crazy, but I swear to you it's real in my garden. That cold frame right there has cabbage and broccoli in it. They're both leggy. Like these areas get very little to no sun throughout the entire day. Like right now the days are getting shorter, so early spring and fall is when this area will get sun. Right now, or the middle of summer, absolutely not. So it is possible to have leggy plants from not too much sun, even if they're outdoors, I swear. So in this, I am growing the spaghetti squash, and I was able to lift the plant up off the ground because of all the buildings. So I have, one building here. I have my house and deck actually on the other side of this, and then behind you guys, I have a tree, a very large tree, 100 feet tall, I think. It's huge, and then sheds, that sort of thing. So the only place the sun can come in is literally when it gets up over top of the house or when it comes in from this direction. So because I was able to lift everything up, I now officially have sunlight, and it's worked out pretty good. I do have some fruits. I have spaghetti squash forming. You can see him up there, and he's happy and healthy. Now he is kind of balancing. I haven't tied him or anything. I'm gonna leave him. I'm gonna see if I can just run it without tying. So one thing I was expecting to help prevent against was the powdery mildew, but oh, that's so prickly. I'm gonna get gloves, hold on. So if you guys ever need gloves, these bamboo touchscreen gloves, they're cool. So they have like the airy back with the thing. Anyways, if you were like playing on your phone in your garden, like turning podcasts off and on, these touchscreen gloves, they are wonderful. I'll leave a link for them down below. But so I did assume, arrogantly, I guess, that powdery mildew, because it is soil driven, compost driven, mulch driven. I have an entire video on powdery mildew. If you want to learn more about that, you haven't watched that yet, go check it out. And so I arrogantly thought that somehow trellising would prevent that. I mean, I'm pretty much done with my season. It's getting pretty darn close to done, maybe a week or two, but I do have powdery mildew forming on here. I have a combo. I have downy and powdery happening, and downy is one of those things that will, well, actually I think I have a video on that too, but downy is just one of those things that will happen. It's not preventable is basically what it is. It just travels up from the US into Canada. It kind of makes like a giant L, and that's just how it disperses by bugs. So not much you can do there, but I arrogantly thought that it would prevent disease and and rot and that sort of thing, and that's just not the case here. Garbage, not compost when you have powdery mildew issues. Let's go check out the other form of a trellis I'm using. So this here is my rabbit cage, or small dog cage, I guess you could say. I literally just screwed it to the fence and I'm trellising my tomatoes up it. Now, this is not my favorite way to do this. I mean, I think I'm going to do a vining plant on this next year. Whenever you have really small squares like what you're seeing here, tomatoes do not trellis up these very well. You need something vining. So next year I think I'm going to do like a cucumber or some sort of squash on this fence. The trellis in and of itself, for being DIY, cheap and inexpensive, the fact that I wasn't using this gate anymore, it's very ideal for that. But I did plant the wrong plant here. I want to try it out. Not my favorite. Doesn't have the tendrils, so it's just not going to work in my favor. Okay, so the next version I have is literally the puppeteering version, or the string version of tomatoes. So simply all that it is it's a string that attaches to a tomato, and then you loop it around the main stem, which ultimately acts as the trellis. Now, I like this method so far. I am going to tweak it in some ways. I use two types of string, so I know people are looking for an update on this. I used like a wool string, and then I used a very stiff construction string, basically. Now, I will say that the construction string one is much better at holding the actual vegetables up until they get very, very heavy. So some of these are like, I have so much fruit on my tomatoes this year, it's ridiculous. And the fruit I do have, if you guys follow me on Instagram, you already know this, but it's not small. Like, I'm growing literally 2-pound tomatoes, like they're just massive tomatoes. So, but regardless, I do like this method, and it's very simple to use, much more simple than tomato cages. It applies the support. This is not a non-windy area, it's actually pretty windy. Saskatchewan in general is just very windy, so that has helped there. The other version that I did was, again, like that wool that I'm talking about, and so with that one, you can see behind me, the plants are, you know, upright. There's a little bit more flex in that string, so the actual curling or roping them up was much more simple to do. However, I did that in my organic bed where my tomatoes are, oh, how am I going to word this right? I don't get in trouble. So the tomatoes in my organic one are smaller than that in the conventional. So this is the same variety. This is my organic bed tomato size, and this is my conventional garden bed tomato size. I don't want to blame this so much on the organic side of things. This year I did do my organic bed a little bit different than I have in past. So this year I did the dead fish in the bottom of the hole type method. I won't be doing it again regardless. It's just stinky and it just didn't work very good. So this is kind of the end results of that, and this is out of the conventional. Again, same variety. I do have some, like, these are literally just like the beefsteaks my grandma's grown for years and years. Nothing special, but regardless, they're pretty tiny. My larger size ones, so I did pink Germans this year. They're from, I believe, either West Coast Seeds, or they could be from Baker's Creek, I'm not sure, but those ones are huge, massive in the conventional, and they're big-ish. They're like a normal sized tomato in the conventional. So anyways, that's just, don't shoot the messenger on that one. But regardless, trellising, puppeteering is another method you can use. The other methods are like the very classic cage and stake methods. I'll insert some footage of what that looks like, but I mean, they're just not my absolute favorite. The tomatoes growing in those cages are quite a bit smaller than the tomatoes that I normally grow. Like the ones that I just showed you on the puppeteering are well over 10 feet tall at this point. And the ones that are in the cages are Manitoba beefsteak, I believe is what they're called. Anyways, they're a shorter variety, and they were planted really late in the season as well. They were like superstore sale versions. So I just put them in hopes that they would produce anything really. And so because of that, they're just not as large, and that's why I chose to use the cages with them, and it's working out just fine. But again, just not my absolute favorite. Anyways, if you guys found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and let me know in the comments down below if you trellis, how you trellis, and what your favorite form is for every single fruit and vegetable. I will talk to you guys next time. Bye!